I don't know where this mentality is coming from. And it's so upsetting. Oh, if it's a private company, it's just fine to mandate medicine.
Bullshit.
It is unethical in the extreme.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Music intro. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. I'm here with Doug from The Rational Capitalist. What's going on, Doug? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
On this fall morning. It's very fallish here, even in California.
God's gift.
And I love fall. It is my favorite. I don't know why.
I love Halloween. I'm a big Halloween guy.
Are you going to dress up this year?
No, I usually don't dress up. But I love.
You decorate?
We have I have a skeleton dog and a skeleton person in webs and a fake cemetery.
Oh, fun.
I love phony monster stuff. I think it's the coolest thing.
It's so fun. You want to hear something super first world, elite?
Absolutely.
Where I live now, in Laguna Beach, it's like the ocean and then the hill and it goes up pretty steep mountain, really. And so the town is really limited by that mountain range. We're like in this little bowl right on the ocean.
Okay.
And a lot of people live high up. So everybody here has golf carts. And it's a decent sized town with 10,000 people. But on Halloween, everyone just zips around on their golf carts, zips their kids around. And it's so fun.
Well, they're banned now, aren't they?
No.
Did you see the new thing that Gavin Newsom just passed?
Something came out.
He banned small off-road gas engines, which includes lawnmowers and chainsaws.
Yeah, that's off-road. It also includes generators.
Generators?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So there's some confusion. I'm trying to look into it because, one of the things we did, because power here is iffy. Power in California is iffy. And so far it hasn't been too bad, but I'm looking forward to the future and thinking I want to have a generator because I don't trust the state to supply me with power. Well, I think they're banning the generators. So now you're just stuck.
Dude, you're living in Atlas Shrugged.
I am.
Seriously,
it's so weird. It really is. It's right out of the book.
I don't think Ayn Rand could have predicted that they would ban lawnmowers. She could have predicted a lot of madness, but not that.
It's like a weird phenomenon living in a one-party state with just all the incredible wealth and corruption here.
It's like a third world country. It's a dictator.
It's like a kid. You're watching kids in candy stores just eating whatever the hell. And it doesn't matter if their teeth are going to rot. They don't care. And they don't have to buy anything. They're just, whatever candy I can get off the shelf. And that's how it feels watching the government here. They just pass all kinds of junk.
Let's ban lawnmowers. Yeah.
And then they have their sugar crashes and, this non-gig economy bill that they passed. And then everybody stopped being able to work. And it was whoops, we were just trying to upset Uber. We didn't know that it would hurt everybody. Well, now we'll hand out all these exceptions and get around people being pissed off about that. But that's how they operate. They just pass shit and then they pass a bunch of exceptions. And of course it increases their power long-term. And then they have the power to hand out the exceptions or take them away. And it's just, they are literally operating in a fiefdom mentality. And we're just the subjects, literally.
Well, historically, they used to call that dictatorship, and then or monarchy.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was this revolution a couple hundred years ago where these guys fought off this British king to get away from that type of system. I
never
just
heard about
about
that.
it.
Never heard that.
Don't bother. It's racist to even
it's
think
just
about
a
it.
silly story. I've never heard that story. Maybe next podcast. So
I'll research it offline.
yeah, so that's how it is to live here. And
Dude, it's unbelievable. Like, are people still kind of fleeing there? Like,
yes. Oh my God. So we had that whole governor recall thing.
yeah, the fake recall.
The fake recall. There's no way he didn't lose. Again, it's just everything's mail. It's rigged. I probably can't even say that, but
it's like trying to recall Putin or Castro.
Kim Jong. What's his face? Can you recall Kim Jong? What's his face? After third generation Kim Jong. No, you can't really.
It's gonna be close, but he's probably gonna pull out in the end.
Yeah, and they make it seem like, oh, we're having an election. I mean, you should see their ads. Their ads are like the cheapest. Nobody's put any freaking effort into these ads, although they spent apparently a lot of money, but of course that goes into pockets. And the product that's coming out, the ads, the political ads, they were so junk. They were like, I could have done it with my iPhone and no lighting, and the writing was bad.
You're talking about ads for Newsom or ads against?
Yeah, like the political ads coming up to the recall. It was like when Joe Biden was running for president, you never saw him and he didn't really run, like it was kind of like that. Like there just wasn't an effort made. And
you'd occasionally all of a sudden see a bunch of people sitting in circles. It's like, oh, this must be a Joe Biden ad because people are in masks and they're sitting in these weird circle formations.
It was all kind of like
a pagan ritual or something.
And looking back, or at the time, you're thinking, is he really even trying? Why isn't he even trying? And that's kind of what you feel about Gavin Newsom. So when that recall ended, and he's still there, I mean, I'm in a lot of little kind of groups, various makeups, different people, different subjects on Facebook and also in real life. Like, my kid goes to a school and so I interact with the parents, and I have friends here. I'm in some Facebook groups that for local things going on, not at all political, just stuff, and then some of them are political. Of course, I'm kind of connected to this one conservative media in California group. And it was really disconcerting to me. Right after that happened, I would say a good, at minimum, 1/3 of everybody I interact with started leaving, or you heard that they were leaving, or
like that was the final straw.
Yeah, like they were ready and they just pulled the trigger on their plans to leave. Yeah.
Wow. So they were kind of waiting for that last ditch.
I think that was a final straw, an election, a recall that just isn't going to, it's not going to work. There is no way to change it. And the way that they're just passing stuff, like you were saying, like they ban generators, they're doing, they're going kind of crazy, and they are crushing the economy here, and they're crushing the people with all kinds of stuff, not just the COVID stuff. But, they had the beaches all closed last year, and they're just insane.
Well, this is what, and the environment you're describing is third world, because in third world dictatorships, you have the party and the oligarchs, the people in power that benefit from a corrupt system. They live in castles and gated communities on the ocean. And then they have the servants who have no power, who just have to survive and are happy to just be there surviving. And then they can serve their masters, which is, that's like the hallmark of third world banana republics, is that there's zero middle class.
Yeah, everyone's leaving. I mean, if my family weren't doing well right now, and our family business and everything, I would be like, we're getting out of here. As much as I love it, it's time to start planning to leave, but it's not for us because we're still doing well. And, we talk about it and we say, well, we'll just do as well as we can. And then when the moment comes, we'll know it, and we'll be as well off as we can be when that moment hits. There's just, and then the other thing is, where do you go? Where do you know that you can go, that it's not going to infest there? And I think what needs to happen, I'd like to see the right literally take some ground. I don't think we have any ground in the United States. We have some governorships and things like that, but we don't have ground.
What do you mean by that?
In a war, you take land. You literally take land over.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the left
So like
owns
the states
all
like,
the land.
like South Dakota, Florida, states with Republican governors, you don't really see that as even safe.
Right. I mean,
you're right. It's safe like now but
it's
the
not,
federal government could take it over.
The next election could change everything. I mean, look at what happens to overnight. You have Colorado going from red to blue because they got in a certain person and then that person changed the election things. And then all the fraud, it was like they have a playbook. They played very well. They're doing it in every state. There's no safe state.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't own any ground. And we're also all subject to the federal government. There's no sanctuary cities that you can sort of reliably count on, that they're red and they'll always be red and they'll always push back against the federal government and screw the federal government. We're going to do sanctuary city. There's nothing like that on the right. They have that on the left, but nothing like that on the right. And even Florida, like if DeSantis wasn't governor, what would it be like there?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of Republican governors who aren't doing jack about what's going on. Right. So, I mean, we only have these few people. And if Ron DeSantis runs for president, or if he loses his election because a Democrat machine and 400 million Facebook dollars descend into Florida and they cause
control
DeSantis
of the election apparatus.
Yeah, they could do it exactly how they did it in the other swing states because nobody's doing anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just really exposed. There is no safe place. So we could move to Florida and within 2 years, it could be a Democrat stronghold. Unless the people rise up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just telling you that a friend of mine just randomly ran into a guy on vacation. The guy's like, yeah, like 2 minutes into the conversation. Yeah, I think we're going to have a civil war.
Yeah.
And my friend's like, I don't even know this guy's politics or anything. That was like, just like came out of the guy's mouth within 2 minutes. And he's like, yeah, my friends are ready. We're going to have a civil war. I mean, that's the kind of conversation that.
Yeah. I think on the right and the left, people are having that conversation. Anyway, I don't know. But for now, we're just sort of waiting and seeing. But yeah, California, I mean, it was already bad. Like I already had a lot of friends who were leaving and stuff. And now it just really picked up. So it is really picked up. I'm going to close the shade just a sec. So anyway, what I wanted to open with today, if I can get the sun off my face.
You don't want too much sun on you, yeah.
So did you see the launch of Captain Kirk into space?
No.
Okay, we're going to start with that because that's some fun news.
I heard about it.
For those of you who don't know, William Shatner, AKA Captain Kirk.
90 years old.
90 years old, the oldest man ever to be launched into space. Let me see, I'm trying to find where the heck is my...
A lot of good memes on this too, right?
Oh, the memes, right? I'll show some memes in a minute, but I want to show.
By the way, he's like the biggest jackass in real life. About like everyone on that set hated him, right? Because he was such a pompous, blowhard, like
I haven't
glory
heard
hog.
that. I
oh
think
my
that
God, you haven't heard that?
I
like
thought
his
that
relationship with George Takei and.
George Takei is apparently a real little sissy pants.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think everybody else has come out and said the same thing.
I don't think that's true. I think that is
what
I think you're inaccurate.
Kirk apologist.
No, I've heard some of that stuff, but I also heard opposing, like I heard that it was kind of a sensationalism and it wasn't really true. So anyway.
All right, let's watch this. So what happened
William
here? So
Shatner
Bezos went into space?
No, Bezos is, but he's now, since he went into space, he wears that uniform all the time.
It's like someone in the medical field that wears their scrubs everywhere.
That's right.
To signal that they're
I'm an
medical.
astronaut.
I'm a doctor.
You know what? He's earned it. He can wear
Like
his
I knew this horrible like drunk alcoholic in my old town, and he would always wear his scrubs everywhere because he like lost his family. He was just a horrible guy, and but he would wear his scrubs.
Yeah.
Like just to the coffee shop because he wanted everyone to know that he was in the medical field.
Yeah.
That's like what this is.
So Bezos has earned the right. He wears his little astronaut suit around, whether he's going into space or not, I guess. Okay. So, I mean, it's so awesome that Captain Kirk went to space. I'm sorry, but that's so awesome. And you've got to watch this. The audio on this is not very good. I encourage anyone to go out. I'll try to get the best audio I can.
So they went
of
into
this.
a capsule and they just orbited the Earth or something? Was that?
Yeah,
the
it was
idea?
a very, very short trip. He's just up there for a few minutes and then came down. And here's him.
Down? Okay.
Here's him talking after. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Everybody in the world needs to do this. Everybody in the world needs to see.
He's crying.
It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, the little things of weightlessness. But to see the blue color go whoop by, and now you're staring into blackness. That's the thing. The covering of blue, this sheet, this blanket, this comforter of blue that we have around it. We think, oh, that's blue sky. And then suddenly you shoot through it all of a sudden, as though you whip off a sheet off you when you're asleep, and you're looking into blackness, into black ugliness. And you look down, there's the blue down there, and the black up there, and it's just, there is Mother and Earth and comfort, and is there death? I don't know. Is that death? Is that the way death is? Whoop, and it's gone. Jesus.
Wow.
It was so moving to me. This experience has been something unbelievable. You see, weightless, my stomach went up, and this is so weird. But not as weird as the covering of blue. This is what I never expected. Oh, it's one thing to say, the sky and the thing and the fragile thing. It's all true. But what isn't true, what is unknown, until you do it, is there's this pillow, there's this soft blue. Look at the beauty of that color. And it's so thin. And you're through it in an instant. It's how thick is it?
The atmosphere.
Is it a mile? 2
miles?
No,
it depends on how you measure because it thins out, but maybe 50 miles.
But you're going 2,000 miles an hour. So you're through 50 miles at whatever the mathematics
fast.
are.
Yeah, really
it's like a beat, and suddenly you're through the blue. And you're into black. And you're into, it's mysterious and galaxies and things. But what you see is black. And what you see down there is light. And that's the difference. And not to have this, you have done something. I mean, whatever those other guys are doing, what isn't, I don't know about that. What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Amazing, huh?
I hope I never recover.
Isn't that amazing?
There's no chance that this was faked, right? Do we have proof that he went into orbit?
Oh my gosh, you're just the worst. You're the worst co-host this morning.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, did that really happen? This thing that you're like so happy about, Sonny?
No, that's pretty neat. I mean, that's pretty, that was pretty incredible. I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. I was just really moved by his, I don't think you can. It's one of those things, you have to do it. You have to do it. You can't really experience. Yeah. It's like, I'm not comparing this at all, but there's like a portion I ran a half marathon once, and the experience of doing it, I had this sort of high and this like, wow, I can do anything. And there was this kind of psychological thing I got from it for about a month after, just sort of I can do anything I set my mind to kind of feeling.
Mhm.
And you have these moments in life like that. And it's hard to describe it or explain it to people unless they've done it. And this seems like one of those. But I was struck by his constant, all of the stuff, whatever, but it's the blue. It's losing that blue, soft pillow and going into the black harshness of space that was, it really hit him. I think that's
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah, it's very Manichaean, like there's this infinite black void, and we're just sitting here on this thing. I guess you could only you'd have to experience that physically to know what that is really like.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I can't believe a 90-year-old can do that with all those G forces and stuff. So maybe it is
Yeah.
fake, but good for
I mean,
him. I was glad to see Captain Kirk launched into space. That was fun. The next subject is sort of related. Let's talk about the Southwest pilot thing. I have a family member who's a pilot at Southwest. And I think the news is getting more accurate about it. I kind of loved that people took this and ran with it and said, oh, it's a slowdown, which is illegal. Like it's literally illegal for the people who work for the airlines to strike.
mhm.
And so there can be no coordinated action to such a choice. But what the deal with Southwest is this. Here's what happened. Southwest Airlines runs on a business model of pilots picking up extra shifts. They pay them time and a half to do it, and they run on that business model. So every day they have pilots picking up shifts, and they have an idea of a percentage that they can get away with kind of overscheduling, and then pilots will step in and pick up the shifts. That's how they operate. And back in like June or something, they had some computer issues and some other issues, and they just had a really hard time. Maybe they have some staffing issues, maybe because of COVID, like some stuff happened, whatever. But what has been going on since July is that pilots have been under a lot of pressure to pick up extra shifts, more than normal. They've been really pushing the boundaries of what they were sort of operating under before. Now they're really pushing it, and there was a lot of pressure, and pilots have been working a lot compared to their normal way that they work, and they're making money. But the point is that they have been putting in a lot of extra effort and time since July to pick up all these extra shifts and basically save the company from having to cancel a bunch of flights. So then the vaccine mandate comes down, and the way it's communicated from their crappy management, which is basically the scenario at Southwest it's like a Steve Jobs to Tim Cook kind of scenario. There was the guy who founded it was the really clever, really creative, really dynamic, really smart CEO who built this great company that people really loved working for. And they were unique. Southwest was a really unique company. People were
It was always voted like the best place to work for years and years.
They're one of the only airlines without a union. They have their own union because they didn't want to join the union. They liked being employees. They didn't want an us and them kind of setup. So they resisted that for a really long time. And everybody really, you remember, they were the airline you'd get on and they would joke around and they would do, they were just a lot more relaxed and less of like, they were never grumpy. They were always in good moods, and they were always kind of fun, and the customer service was good, but it was casual. It wasn't like you weren't going to get treated like a first class, and they didn't have first class. So that was their business model. Well, now they have their Tim Cook kind of CEO who's part of the oligarch, and he does what he's told, and he's not creative. He's not dynamic. He's not a good manager. He's just a by the book kind of bean counter type of individual. He is a typical today, large corporation CEO. Just, one of these guys who went to Harvard, probably. He's probably great with spreadsheets,
Mhm.
No offense.
Yeah.
And
None taken.
yeah, I'm great with spreadsheets too.
Not as good as me.
Not as good as you.
But go ahead.
Not even close. So I saw him on TV saying, look, the federal government mandated it. And so this wasn't our choice. But what he did was he sent out a thing and said, get vaccinated, pilots, or you lose your job as of November or whatever. Like there was like a date. In other words, we don't care about you. And what people like, everybody thinks, it's just fine for companies to mandate these vaccines. Like that's just fine. If it's coming from a private company, then it's not coercion. We all know it's freaking coercion. We all know it is. And more than that it is unbelievably screechingly unethical for anybody to say, you will take this medicine or I will do something bad to you, like fire you or, kick your kids out of school, or I'm sorry. That is to me, an evil abomination. No company should ever think that they have the right to tell their employees, you take this drug, all of you take this one drug. I've decided it's good for you. So you freaking inject yourself. And that's perfectly fine. I don't know where this mentality is coming from. And it's so upsetting. If it's a private company, it's just fine to mandate medicine.
Bullshit.
It is unethical in the extreme. It is communist medicine, whether it's a CEO telling 10,000, 20,000 employees, take this one medicine. It's communist medicine. So what do you think that does to the individual? The individual body, what does it do to that? And how does that communist leader make the decision of what medicine? How did the CEO of Southwest make the decision? He fucking did what Joe Biden told him to do. Or Fauci. So it's coming from the government. And even if it were not, who's he to say? He's not a freaking doctor, and he's not your doctor, and he doesn't know your body. And also it's your freaking body. And it's like people are saying, this is fine. It's a private company. In this country, you cannot sign a contract enslaving yourself. So how come it's perfectly fine to sign a contract that says, I will take these drugs that you tell me to take, or I'll just I'll give over my medical sovereignty to you, you fucking fucker CEO. And that's legal and ethical.
Right. But what if he wants to have sex with all of his employees?
Right.
Like that's illegal.
Hey, that's a private company.
Private company, do whatever
private company, dude. You signed that contract, you agreed to have sex with him. The hell's wrong with you for objecting to that and saying, oh my God, that's a little bit of a violation. Hey, listen, hey, nurses. I really like nurses. I'm really sexually attracted to nurses. I think I'm going to say, have sex with me by December 1st or you're fired. Well, wait a sec. I work really hard. Like, I love this company. I love to take care of my patients. I don't really want to have sex with you. I'm a good nurse and you're going to fire me? Like, this isn't right. Neighbor says, well, it's a private company. What's your objection?
Bend over.
Just have sex with him or quit and find another job at another hospital where the other CEO there has said, oh, we can require them to have sex with us.
And meanwhile,
the president, I'm so going to do that.
The president of the United States has mandated that all employees have sex with their boss by December 1st.
Right. That's the situation. I mean, it is not okay just because it's private. Telling a person to inject a drug into their body against their will and withholding values for that is evil. It is so freaking wrong. And I was thinking, like, I was trying to come up with an example of a situation where a company could mandate a medicine where that would make sense. Like, and I had the example. What if all my employees, I send them to South America to work in the jungles, and I require them to take some malaria vaccine or something like that? If one exists, I don't even know.
Yeah.
There are malaria medications. I think it's hydroxychloroquine, actually.
It is.
Okay, so I require them to take this drug before they get hired.
And ivermectin.
Because I'm going to send them to South America. And I was thinking, well, that seems like it. But even then, if somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I'd just rather go and take the risk, and because I'm allergic to that, or I'm really healthy, I think I could probably deal with anything, and I just want to cross that bridge when I come to it. I think there are treatments. I don't want to take it. Is it moral to force them, or to even have that be really any of your business? Shouldn't you just say, look, we're sending you to South America. We recommend that you work with your doctor and you take this. Here's a list of medications, because you will be exposed to these scary viruses, and you're going to sign us and indemnify us. You can't sue us if you get malaria. So that is really the limit of what a company can do ethically. To require somebody to ingest medicine for any reason at all is wrong. It's wrong, period. I can't think of a single example where it would be right.
Well, not only that, two things here. One is there is no federal mandate to do the vaccine. There's literally no federal mandate. There's no federal executive order, and there's no OSHA rule. So there literally is no mandate.
Not yet. But it was just said, and so they're anticipating it.
It was a press release.
Yeah.
So, but beyond that, let's say there was one even. The idea that I totally agree with what you're saying, and this is even more egregious because I could imagine a case where maybe you could imagine a case like you're trying to with the malaria thing, where you have like a really super well-known medication that's been out there for 50 years and everyone's taken it. But even in that case, you'd say, well, in my individual situation, I'm allergic to this medicine, or my doctor doesn't want me taking it because it could have a counter effect with a certain medication I'm taking, or whatever. So each individual person would have to decide. And the only justification might be is if your sickness somehow enveloped everybody else and was a threat to everybody else. But what we know about COVID is that the vaccine doesn't stop transmissibility. And so if you get the vaccine, you can still get COVID and you can still transmit it. And if it's safe and effective, supposedly, if you have the vaccine, how is it that my not taking it is a risk to you? It's like that great YouTube of the guy that was forcing everyone else to wear a life jacket in the pool.
Yeah, JP Sears came out with a comedy video
if
comparing it to a life jacket.
If I don't wear a life jacket, how does that affect, if you have a life jacket on and I don't, how does that affect you? Why do you get, well, what they're trying to do is just get everyone, it's just a way to get everybody to take it because they think they know what's best for the deplorables.
Yeah.
So it's just a pure.
Well, it's also, they're just selling stuff, they're just making money.
Money and power. But for Southwest, I mean, they don't want the responsibility. They want the government. They love it because they want the government. They love the government
telling them what to do. Absolutely. They jumped on that. They couldn't jump on it fast enough. So behind the scenes, what happened was this. That memo came out. Take this vaccine or you're fired as of X amount of day. And it wasn't so much that there was a response to the vaccine as much as it was man, F this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I bust my ass for you? I think I'll spend the weekend with my family instead of picking up those shifts. I don't need to pick up those shifts. It's not part of my job. My job is here. I was doing extra. I don't need to do extra.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And it was not discussed. There was no organization it was like everybody just suddenly had this psychological break, you know? It was a cultural issue. This guy treats his employees like deplorables. He treats them like cogs in a machine and tells them what to do. And he thinks it's just fine. And he doesn't care that he's being unethical and that he's not treating them like human beings. He doesn't care that he's a lackey for the federal government. And everybody freaking knows it. He just ruined the goodwill. In that moment, the goodwill was done. And so anything that they were asking from people to go above and beyond, people just stopped doing it. And so it was really just a psychological, cultural break.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, a lot of people didn't pick up shifts.
He ruined the morale of his employees.
Yeah.
And destroyed their benevolent incentive to go above and beyond and even make extra money.
Yeah.
Because they're so dispirited by the way he's treating them.
Exactly. And then, so I love that people have picked this up and run with it, because I think it is true to say the Southwest pilots are not flying planes because of this vaccine mandate. I believe that is true, even though it wasn't an organized, discussed.
Because they can't, per their terms of their contract. They're not allowed to do that.
It's not like they were even doing it behind, oops,
they didn't need to. Mm-hmm.
It was just a human response. And that's great.
I did see one Southwest plane with the Gadsden flag flying out the cockpit.
Now after everyone's taking advantage of it, and my brother's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm like revealing who it is. It's my brother. My brother's a Southwest pilot. He's like, I was at the store. He was in his uniform. And someone's like, thank you. He was like, yeah. He's like, I'm not going to tell people I'm not a hero.
Yeah, it's like being a podiatrist or you're like an accountant in the military, and it's like, you're a hero, thank you for your service.
Yeah, right. He's like, but
I just took a vacation for a week. I just took my vacation days for a week. I'm not really a hero.
People really needed this.
But
people needed to see a group of people go, no, F you. A group of normally the kind of people that are good people. They're good. They care about people. They're reliable people.
Oh, they're the best pilots. They're usually the best people.
Everyone looks up to pilots. And I think it was good that it was taken and run with, even though maybe it was spun a little.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's what we need to do. That's what we need to see. And I think it also emphasizes something else, which is these people, these dictators are relying and depend on us, the people that work.
Yeah.
And all it takes is a handful of them saying no, some nurses, some paramedics, some police, and the very people that they're relying on to be their servants, to come when 911 is called, to be at the hospital to save their life, to fly the planes that they jet around the world on. Those people aren't just going to be there. You can't just do whatever you want and expect that these people are going to serve you. And that's a reminder of that.
I know
that this has real world consequences.
Yes, it has real world consequences. There's a percentage of people who are just going to say no freaking way. I would like to see, and I would like to see more people. I see a little bit of this, but it's too small of a percentage. People who actually are vaccinated stand up against this. I want to see more Spartacuses, more I am Spartacus, because it's not just it's not just an issue about this medicine. In fact, that's not the issue at all. It is highly, highly unethical and wrong and evil to mandate medicine of any form. It is an abomination. There's a reason that people look back at the Nazis in horror, and that there's the whole Nuremberg Code with the people there's informed consent. We have all of these ethical standards around this because it's an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell just a brief little personal story. Can't believe I'm going to tell this story. So I was in the hospital again last week, and I was rushed to the ER, and I was in the ER, and I was having these fainting spells. And And with those moments where I was kind of feeling like I was going to faint, I would feel really nauseated, and then it would pass, and then it would kind of happen again, and then it would pass. And I told the nurse, that I felt like I was going to throw up, mostly because I wanted a thing to throw up in case I did. And she said, "Oh, I'll give you this medicine for nausea, which is called Zofran. A very common medicine. I've had it many times before in the hospital, and they just throw it in your IV, And I said, "No, I don't want that. The nausea is coming and going with this fainting thing, and it just comes and goes. I don't need a drug." And Zofran makes you kind of fuzzy brained. And for me, it actually causes heart palpitations too, which are no fun. And it's like a 6 to 8 hour drug. So for 6 to 8 hours, then I've got this heartbeat going, blah, blah, and I'm kind of foggy headed. No, thanks. I take it if I'm really nauseated, but I wasn't really nauseated. I just had these little episodes. So I didn't want it. I told her that, and she seemed annoyed, which happens all the time when you're a sick person around people who are your nurses and doctors. They get annoyed with you when you turn down medication. I swear to God, they get annoyed with you. Mm-hmm. It's freaking weird. They want to just throw tons of drugs at you all the time, and they are annoyed when you say no. To the point that they actually would like to hurt you for saying no. I believe they're mad about it. They have their checklist. They have their standard of care. This is how they're trained. They're in the ER. They want to go through this checklist. You're nauseated. Boom, Zofran. This you need this because that's what they told me to do. WebMD. And now you're getting me out of my flow. I don't like it. And so I had two things happen. That happened, and then I actually did faint. First time in my life I've ever fainted. I didn't just feel faint. I didn't just almost faint, which has happened, maybe a few times, a dozen times. I full on fainted. It was the weirdest thing. And when I woke up, I don't know, a couple minutes later, she'd given me the drug in my IV while I was out.
Whoa. Oh my God. That can't be, it's certainly unethical. It can't, is that even legal? You've denied it. You've explicitly denied it.
I denied it, but I was unconscious.
That's assault.
I was unconscious, so she can do whatever she wants. And I had reported nausea again. Like the fainting thing was coming on. I said, I think I might throw up. I fainted. I woke up, and she'd given me the drug.
So she thinks, well, this woman's just out of her mind. She's not thinking right. I'm just going to do it.
I don't even think she's thinking this woman's out of her mind. I think she's thinking nausea, Zofran. You're not allowed to say no because I don't want you puking in my ER. You don't know what's best for you. I know what's best for you. I even told her it causes heart palpitations. So it was like.
And it was the same nurse. This wasn't
the same nurse.
Wow. So is there anything not that you have recourse, but can you complain? Can you talk to the manager?
Yeah, I can.
I want to talk to the manager of the hospital.
I filed a report because I thought it was extremely unethical and dangerous. What if the heart palpitations were the kind that were, you don't know when someone says heart, back the fuck off, slow your roll, dude.
Yeah. And if you had died, like she would have just changed your record. Well, we did what we were supposed to do. You give Zofran with nausea. Sorry, you died. Well,
that's right. I did my job. It's not my fault.
Not my fault.
Exactly. And I'm telling this story to demonstrate the attitude of a lot of people in the medical community and how evil it is to give someone medicine against their will. Even just a fairly mild drug like Zofran that you're used to giving. And you think, well, I know that it helps.
Your situation.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm trying to stay alert and not be fuzzy minded so I can deal with my health with these people. So I don't want a drug that makes me fuzzy and I don't want heart palpitations because then it's really scary and unpleasant. And actually there's another anti-nausea medicine that I got once that caused me to have like psychotic anxiety. Like I felt like there were things crawling on me, and I had to just literally wait it out for hours. You know, I was having this like this weird hallucination of like I jumping out of my skin. It wasn't really like I was seeing bugs or something. That wasn't it. It was just this feeling that, and I was afraid to sleep. I thought I was going to die. It was intense anxiety of not just like a panic or a,
and that could be either
fear.
your own body reacting to it just uniquely. It could be an interaction.
Could be an interaction with other medicine. Yes, exactly. And so now I know I have a list of drugs like that I never take, that other people probably have no problem with. Dilaudid, a lot of people like that as a painkiller. That gives me a 3-day migraine that you cannot get rid of. It is so miserable. And I know that I don't want it. People throw Dilaudid at you in the emergency room all the time. So I've put it on my allergy list to make sure no one will give it to me. Because those idiots are just, they're drug. But they're willing to give this stuff to you against your will. You have to be tough. It's very unethical. And at the highest level, we have people like this who think they know what's best. And they're following their little rule book. I don't mean Fauci. Fauci's more like the evil guy who's just, you know, it's about his relationships and making money and the pharmaceutical companies. But all of these doctors and people just like, yeah, take this drug and it's fine to mandate it.
They should have vaccinated you while you were.
Yeah. I wonder if they did.
They probably did.
Yeah. I haven't said my vaccination status. Anyway. So that is so creepy. It's so wrong. So now imagine a CEO thinks he's got the right to tell tens of thousands of people that they have to have a certain medicine that he thinks is what they need. It's so wrong.
Frightening.
And it's frightening. And we're
all
CEO,
a politician, they know what's best for you. They know what medicine you should take. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
That's like Kim Jong-un level stuff.
Yeah, it's you know what, and it's fine. Get another job. Oh, where's a pilot supposed to go? Where's a pilot supposed to go?
Right.
Is a pilot supposed to go to another airline that's also required to mandate the vaccine and lose all of the seniority that he had on that airline that he's worked his whole life for? So he's a captain on Southwest Airlines. If he goes to United because of the unions, he's bottom.
Well, yeah,
he has to work his way up again.
Well, I mean, just even legally, he has a contract with Southwest. I mean, there's certain parameters of a contract. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, like if you have a contract and you've been there a certain number of years and so on and so forth, you can't be wrongfully terminated when you have a contract like that. And they can't ask you to do something that's totally unreasonable, that's against the spirit of the contract as well. So even on those grounds,
so much wrong with this.
There's
so much illegal about it, but also just unethical.
And it's a fascist context because the federal government is in the background saying, do this or else.
Right.
And all the other airlines, and there's an FAA. It's not like, oh, go start your own airline.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't start your own airline. You can't do that.
You can't have an airline that doesn't require masks to fly and things like that.
Regulated by the FAA.
That's right. That's a federal regulation. Okay. So I'm really tired of all this chitter chatter about private companies because it's just point to one. I don't know a single company anymore that is on their own and that isn't subject to the federal government in some way. And the smaller and more mom and pop you are, the more likely you are to be as free as possible. But the bigger you are, it is impossible. And I'll bring up another company here. I want to talk about Facebook. An article came out in the Federalist laying out that Zuckerberg put $400 million of Facebook money into swing state elections.
Yep.
What he did was he didn't do campaign money. He put money into the administration of elections. So how many ballot boxes are there? Pressure to do campaigns for mail-in voting. Do you have a ballot box every block or do you have one every mile? Operatives, Democrat operatives paying their salaries to go into these markets and manipulate the administration of voting, as well as get out the vote efforts that were focused just on Democrats. And in one county I can't remember which county, but in the article it says so, and I'll link to this article. In one county in Wisconsin, it was like $47 per voter Democrat, $4 per voter Republican in terms of a get out the vote effort related to ballot boxes and things like that, related to people scooping up ballots and doing this third, what do you call it, ballot harvesting, and having ballot boxes every block and all this stuff. The amount of money spent in Democrat areas with Democrat voters was so many, it was tenfold, more than tenfold.
Well, I have intimate knowledge of this because I was in a city that was affected by, this is called the Tech for Civil Life or something. It was the Zuckerberg PAC, and they distributed tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to all the key swing states and just regions within swing states. And there was a lawsuit, I think, in the state of Wisconsin over this because of what you just said. The money was distributed disproportionately, just obviously. It was obviously meant to pay for Democratic operatives to go to these cities and take over the administration of the election. So in one city, they were butting in so much, these consultants, they were hired as consultants, that the city clerk actually resigned and left. And so that person then was, someone else was then put into a position to take over the election from the independent city clerk. And these people had access to the machines, the ballot boxes. They were able to do get out the vote, like you said, get out the vote campaigns, but only in demographic areas that favored Democrats.
They're the ones who disrupted the whole chain of security, where they had these ballot boxes put out there where you didn't know who handled it, where they went. It was like
ballot
such
boxes all over the cities. They were just sitting there
that
like,
people
okay,
could just pick up. People, these operatives, these paid operatives, these Facebook paid operatives. And there was so much money put into this from Facebook, and it was all concentrated in swing states. So I'm sorry. I feel like, what the hell do people think fascism looks like, if not Facebook?
So you announce you're a fascist, Sonny, and you put on your armband,
put on your Nazi uniform, I guess,
yeah.
and you go Heil.
Yeah.
Because now we know it's fascism. I mean, here's a little clue. And I think people are looking for this clear smoking gun relationship between government and business, where government says to Facebook, hey, Facebook, you take down all the conservative voices around the election. And there's a memo, and Facebook goes, okay, I'll do that.
Okay, put that in writing and we'll all sign it.
Yeah.
And then we'll take a videotape.
And they think that it's government against poor victim businessman. And it's not. It is a revolving door. It's, if you read Atlas Shrugged, it's the union, the bosses, the government. It's all these power players in a room together, trading and making. I'll put get off my back. I'll put 400 million into these swing elections. We'll get our guy in. Then we're going to regulate me in this way so that I don't have as much competition. I'm happy. I want the regulation. Then everybody gets off my back, and I don't have any competition for life.
If you're a regulator in one of these agencies, you get hired by the company after you leave Washington. You go back into the private sector and you get put on their board as a payment.
Right.
So it's not a direct payment,
well,
but it's
and there's there aren't direct payments too. Facebook puts their guy in charge of the committee or whatever that's going to regulate them. I mean, hello, this is how it looks. It's murky. It's a revolving door. It's everybody's involved. There is no memo, but look at it, everybody. This is not a private company. Facebook is a fascist entity. 100%. Southwest Airlines is a fascist entity. it doesn't, if it gets worse than this, it's a communist entity, like the only next step is nationalizing it and running it from an office in Washington.
It's de jure rather than de facto.
And I feel like that's what people are looking for. They think of fascism as somebody in Washington is calling all the shots. That is not fascism. That's communism. Fascism is what we have, which is this: they're working together. They've got the same goals. It's power and money. They want to destroy competition. They don't care about anyone's freedom. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. I feel like people, especially on the right, the freedom fighting types, the free marketer types, do not understand fascism when they see it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the genius of the left too, is that they're driving that wedge into the right, because they're not going to come out and say, we've just passed a law banning free speech. No one shall criticize Joe Biden.
They know they can't get away with that. Yeah.
Because they can't get away with it. But, if they pay off or threaten certain regulations against every major internet medium, if they don't take down videos and suppress the content of people that criticize Joe Biden, how is that not a form of censorship?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. Perhaps that's a really important thing that people on the right need to work on, is explaining to free marketers how these businessmen are not good. This is fascism. I mean,
to give you an example, Sunny, I was talking to a representative in my state, and this is a perfect example. And they were saying, you know what? The hospital associations in the state are the biggest donors to the Republican Party. And the hospitals get all their money from the federal government. From like 2/3 of the funding of most major hospital systems are from like Medicare and government reimbursements. So the federal government threatens the hospitals, and then the hospitals are donors to the Republican Party. And the rep said, some of the resistance I said, this is like a fascist system, and the representative said, well, part of the resistance we have in our state is that a lot of the Republicans in our legislature think that this is interfering with the free market. If we come back with some law or some pushback to try and level the playing field, so that this crony system is broken up somehow, that's an interference in the free market. And I was like, there's no free market. Where's the free market here? This is insane, But that's exactly it. But that's that. And when I was sitting there listening to that, I said, all the times that you and I have talked about this, or we've had these arguments with people online about free markets, private business versus fascism, I was like, this is literally affecting my life. I'm having a representative tell me to my face that no, this is, a lot of them think this is a free market and we can't interfere with it.
Well, we're seeing this in objectivism big time. I just shared online the other day a tweet from an objectivist intellectual who said he felt that Moderna and Facebook were the most unjustly maligned companies this month. He kind of said it like, oh, they get the award for the most unjustly maligned companies. And I'm like, what freaking world do you live in? I mean, I'm trying to be gracious, but these two companies couldn't be more fascistic. One is trying to force drugs on people, or is fine with that happening. The other is putting 400, an article comes out saying, oh, they put $400 million into elections, where they bullied their way into the administration of swing state elections. And they censor people on the right against the law, against the 230 law and all that stuff, and fraudulently. And then they take people's stuff down for no reason, people who've worked really hard to build up their sites and stuff. I mean, let's not forget that was happening in 2016, 2015, where people who had spent a decade building their news organization and audiences on Facebook were just eliminated overnight for no reason.
After conferring billions of dollars of value onto Facebook by bringing building that content and bringing customers into Facebook.
Yeah. Same with
And
YouTube.
Facebook just changes their terms of service like that overnight.
And it's, to me, it goes against my common sense of what like is fair and just and what common law might say about that. Like, you can't just change the rules on people. And they have all this indemnification in exchange for something. And anyway, we have litigated this on this show a million times, but this is interesting. I mean, I think maybe we need to push harder on this topic.
But we have a culture of authoritarianism in our society, and it's manifesting itself in every possible corner of the country, from people like cheering censorship online to people cheering vaccine mandates, wanting people to die that don't get them. It's like instigating and inducing this like culture and of authoritarianism. And yes, there's a long-term issue about like what laws and everything else we explicitly endorse right now because of the long-term ramifications of giving the government too much power. And so that's a tactical decision, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't use the antitrust laws to break this company up because that could be used against good guys later, that kind of stuff. But the point is that we're in a war, and the war is authoritarians against freedom lovers. And that's not Republican, Democrat. It's authoritarian, central planner tyrants against freedom loving people. And you have to fight that war on every possible front. And that means criticizing people who are supposedly running a neutral platform that are disproportionately censoring conservatives because they don't like it, who are shutting people down, like ruining their lives and ruining their businesses. That's just unethical.
Yes.
That's
kind of what I want to get to. It's like everybody's so focused on the law. And it's the same thing with these, like, oh, it's a private company and therefore, but I would argue it probably is against the law anyway. You just can't do that to people.
Right.
And that will come out. However, why are the freedom voices not going, whoa, that's really wrong? It's kind of like your example of like the CEO saying, I want to have sex with all my employees. Okay, that's a clear example. Okay, you can't really do that. Well, why can you tell them what drugs to take?
It's legal. It should be legal to take heroin. That doesn't make it ethical. If someone's taking heroin, you wouldn't say, "Well, that's what he does. He takes heroin." I mean, you'd say, "That's horrible." I don't,
So this needs to be this is part of the problem with the right. Part of the problem is the freedom fighters laying down in front of all this stuff because they don't see the oppression in what is supposedly the market, but it isn't a free market. So,
no, this is a moral issue, and if you want to seize the moral high ground, you have to constantly emphasize and highlight the moral issue, which is something you do constantly, Sunny.
Yeah.
Which is forget about all this other, the intricacies of the legal argument. First and foremost, is this ethical? Is this right?
Yeah.
Is this in the spirit of, is this part of the American spirit?
Right. The human spirit, I think too, like part of me is like, these are human beings and you're going to make them take a drug against their will. I had that exchange with somebody the other day and they're like, oh, you're spewing misinformation about the vaccines. And I'm like, dude, people are being forced to take drugs against their will. That's it. To me, hello, this isn't about the vaccine. I don't even give a shit. That's your decision. Fucking talk to your doctor. I don't care. I made my decision. In fact, I'm constantly analyzing the decisions that me and my family are making with respect to this virus. And I know you are too. Like we're always like looking at the data, checking Israel, checking UK. Like we want to know which vaccine is best. Should we take the vaccine? Should we take the booster? This has been a constant refrain for you and me for a year and a half as friends behind the scenes, sharing information. We're very aware and informed. I talk to my doctor about it all the time because I'm vulnerable. So make your fucking decision, but don't like, you can't tell other people what to do medically. When did that become like something people thought was a reasonable ask for anybody? When did this nurse think she could give me Zofran in my IV when I was passed out after I said I didn't want it?
Mhm.
The fuck is wrong with you? You know, what is wrong with you? That is unethical and like borderline evil, for the little evil act of, I'm going to give it to her anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
that bureaucratic culture of tyranny, those little acts, and they're all justified because when they have the moral high ground with this idea that there's all these deplorables and we know what's best for them, they're all stupid idiots that they don't know what's best. We're the medical experts. We're going to tell them what to do. And if they resist,
they're angry
we
about
we
it.
want to kill them.
Yeah.
That's their attitude.
I had another thing happen to me, the same group. And this is why, you guys, this is why medical error, even in the provable cases, is the third leading cause of death in this country. That is a huge number. And that's when it's provable. If that Zofran had killed me, that would never have been a medical error, because that was according to the checklist, would not be considered an error. If you ever go into the hospital, be freaking aware. The other thing that happened to me, so I'm still on prednisone, as you guys know. I've been having a really hard time getting off of it. I mean, my body is so addicted to pred that when I get down to a certain level, my heart starts racing and it palpitates, and I'm having all of this trouble with that. I get short of breath. It's really fucking scary. And I've been really struggling, and I don't know what's going to happen. And if I don't get my prednisone on schedule, I get migraines and I get these heart problems. And I mean, my body's obviously struggling to live. You can feel it struggling to live. I can't breathe. My heart's pounding. It's not getting any adrenal hormones. You need cortisol and adrenal hormones to fucking live, for your heart to beat and your lungs to, and they know this. And I told them this, and I said, I have adrenal insufficiency, have to have prednisone. One of the rules that they have anytime you go into the hospital is they take your medicine from you and they throw it down at the pharmacy. The pharmacy goes through it and then they give it back to you later, but they want to administer all your drugs. They don't want you taking your own freaking drugs. Mm-hmm. And when you're on a lot of medication, so you're surrendering all your various meds and you're just having to fucking hope that they fucking process it in time and get it to you and get it according to your schedule. You lose all autonomy and control over your medication. I never surrender my drugs. Never. Because too many times they don't process it or give it to me in time, and I start suffering. Man, I mean, physically suffering in one way or another, whether it's pain medicine in the past when I've had pain issues, whether it's prednisone. I never surrender my medication anymore.
Your bong.
And sure enough, I said this about the thing. And so they come in with this syringe of steroid. They want to give me this big dose. And I'm like, no, I don't want this big dose, because that puts me, I'm trying to get off this medication. If you give me this huge dose, you're going to undo some of my progress that I've worked so hard on, so uncomfortably. So I just want what I take. I just want my oral 5 milligram tablet. I don't want 20 milligrams in IV. So I refuse it. So they put in my chart, refuse steroids, and never brought me my 5 milligram tablet.
Oh my God. That's just a total, fuck you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a total fuck you.
All right, fine then. You get nothing and you'll like it.
So I'm going to see how long it takes them to figure this out.
Oh boy.
And I take my own medicine. I took my own 5 milligram tablet. And then I start saying, I have not been given my steroids. Even though I've been taking them, just to tell them, see how long it fucking takes them to come around with actual steroids for me to take orally, according to my, I just wanted to see. Guess how fucking long it took him.
How long?
This is a person who I have to take steroids 3 times a day just to keep my heart beating. Okay. Took him a day and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. Took him
So
a
if
day
you
and
were
a half.
out of your mind or something, or weren't thinking straight, they're not giving you those medications, like you could be a goner, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, well,
I don't think I'd be a goner, but I would have had a heart attack, and then they would have had to respond to that.
yeah.
Like it would have really hurt me.
Well, this is why you hear all the time, like old people, oh yeah, they broke their hip or something happened, they went to the hospital and they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, well, what happened? Well, they got pneumonia or something, and that
Yeah.
they went in there and they fucked it up.
People didn't
There's a
take
movie,
care of
by
them.
the way. There's a movie from the early 1970s with George C. Scott. Everyone should go try and see, called Hospital.
Jesus,
And
I don't know if I could watch that.
A friend of mine's father, who was a
I'm gonna write this
doctor for
down.
many, many, many years, said that this was his favorite movie because you think it's hyperbole and you think it's satire, but he said this is exactly what 1960s and 1970s hospitals were really like. What you see in this movie with George C. Scott, it's called Hospital. I had never seen it before. It's a little wild, but he said it's totally dead on.
I have an agreement with a very close friend of mine who also happens to be a doctor, that if I get serious COVID, that I'm going to her house. I'm not going to a hospital.
That makes sense. Because
I'm terrified of checking into the hospital and not being treated.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crapshoot. And in California, it's even worse. If I were in Minnesota, I wouldn't feel that way, because the University of Minnesota Hospital is so good, and I have great doctors up there. That's why I fly up to meet with my doctors, and I won't give them up, because the medical care here is just scary. But it's got this sheen of respectability on it. And anyway, can you believe that? A day and a half it took them to give me my medicine. And then they gave it to me, and I had to like hide it, not swallow it, because I'd already taken it,
Yeah, I took it.
I took it. But I wasn't going to tell her, look, I've been hiding my medicine, because then, that would have been big. I would have gotten in big trouble.
Put you in hospital jail.
They might have like secured me down and gone through my bags at that point. They can do whatever. All right. So I was going to talk.
Fun.
Yeah, that was hey.
It is what everybody. It is.
Just, you know what? Find a good doctor. Find a good doctor.
Yeah,
no matter who you are. You know some good doctors.
Yeah, I do.
I know some good doctors. Everyone needs to go find a good doctor for that eventuality. I was going to talk about Columbus today, because it was Columbus Day on Monday. And of course, all the usual BS. But I guess maybe we'll do it next time, or we'll see what happens. Anyway, Thanks for joining us today. We had a nice conversation. I did have a couple rants in there. People like it when I yell.
Yeah, I like it.
Maybe.
Hey, man.
Every time I yell, I get like a lot of positive feedback and comments.
Well, if you want to have a boring conversation, go to Walmart or something and talk to the cashier. You know?
That might actually be a more interesting conversation these days.
That's a bad example.
I was gonna say, go to a freaking corporate board meeting.
Yeah.
In a big company, and they'll hear constant chatter saying nothing.
Buzzword,
right?
buzzword, 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 buzzword.
Spin buzzword. What's going on?
What does this company do? We are project managers for a strategic vision of blah, 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 blah. Like, what do you do though? Like, do you do something?
We're changing paradigms in the
We do a 360-degree paradigm.
We're disrupting. We're disrupting markets in large scale with a small scale attitude.
Wait, what?
What are you talking about? What do you do?
You make shoelaces? What? No.
Oh my God. The worst place in the world for that is Silicon Valley, which is so sad that this kind of exciting, dynamic, wild west of business.
Well, by the way, I have a new hobby, which is I go on LinkedIn, and I've in this thing where they send me like job openings and stuff for like executive job openings, and I always try and figure out what the company does and what the job is. And it sounds funny, but I'd say 8 or 9 out of 10 of the listings, I can read the entire job description and the description of the company, and I have no idea what the company does, and I have no idea what the job is. It's like literally like a buzzword salad of like CMX Industries, you know, like, okay, what do you do? We are forward thinking, project visionary, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, what do you do? And I like go through it. I saw like, I don't know what this company does. And the job is like vice president of operations for project deliverables or something. I'm like, what? And then it says, you will lead a team of thinking robot, you know, blah, 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 and you'll software that does blah, blah, that. I'm like, I don't know what this job is. I don't know what the company does. It's like literally like totally unintelligible. And I'll go to their website sometimes to see like, can I figure out, and you see this like if you watch commercials sometimes like during a football game or a sport, and it'll be like so-and-so consulting, something like consulting firm, and they'll say, and it's a commercial, and it shows, of course, there's like all commercials have black people in it now, and like, you know, whatever. And it's like they're doing something and they're talking, and then they're in a car and in a mountain or something. And I'm like, what does this company do?
Yeah. A lot of commercials are like that these days, where you can't really tell what the product is.
Helping our customers. Okay. So that's the world we're in.
It's kind of weird that if I would like to do some sort of divorce or civil war, the people that I want to interact with are just people who just are more down to earth and tell the truth more and let you decide, you know, like leave the spin at home. I'm just so tired of the fakery, the fakeness, the phoniness of everything. And
just,
it's exhausting trying to figure people out and figure out what people want and what they're after and what they're trying to sell me. And it gets exhausting. I just want to be around straight shooters. I think this is why Trump appealed to a lot of people. Was his just direct, like, what are you talking about? You know, especially against the woke stuff.
I fantasize about being in that position of just being able to say, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just talk to me in like words. Like, what's your problem?
Right.
You know? All right.
That's like you'd have to be like a therapist. So what do you really mean? What do you really go down a layer? Go down another layer. Tell us what's really at the root of that desire to be a disruptor in the
How would you disrupt?
How would you disrupt? Can you describe that disruption? If you had to describe that disruption in 3 words, what would they be?
Strategic, vision, paradigm.
Good. Strategic. Take that word and let's go down. Strategic. What do you mean by that? Do you mean draw a picture of that? Here's a crayon. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the House of Sunny podcast. You can go check out Doug's work at theratcap.com. You can follow me on Facebook at Sunny Lohman, where I just really post memes. That's really all I do on there. And then I do this podcast. So yeah, I do post good memes. I have to say, I have good meme taste.
Great stuff.
All right. Check you later.
The demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?